Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark TV. You know who I am, Dr. Angela Butchester. You know what I like to do on my show. I want to enlighten, inspire, and empower you to become your best self. Now, scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And today we want you fired up about my guest. I am speaking with Penelope Bourdillion today, and we are talking about her book, Abundance. So go on, get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee or get your tea, because we are about to get started. Hello, Penelope. Thank you so much for joining me here on Daily Spark TV.
Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. Now, we always give our guests an opportunity to introduce themselves to perhaps those few folks out there that may be a little unfamiliar with you or your work. So first question is, tell us a little bit about yourself. What makes you you?
Oh my goodness. Do you want to know about my life? Nothing to do with books, just where I am. I've lived in Wales for 60 years because I got married and went to live there. And my husband died 20 years ago. And I now spend the winters in Oxford, which is very nice. And then I go whizzing back to Wales to my garden, which keeps me very busy. And I'm very involved with things down there, and I love it. Right up in the hills in the country. Do you know where Wales is?
I do. I happen to have a family there. So absolutely. Thanks to my dear darling fraternal grandmother. Absolutely. So thank you so much for that question. Now, being an author, is that something that you've always wanted to do, or did you find that life presented the opportunity to you?
Certainly no to the first part of the question. I had no idea I would ever write a book. The very first one I wrote was just my testimony when I met Jesus. And somebody said I must keep a journal. So I didn't, but after a few weeks, I used to just sit down and write what had happened because it was all so exciting. And I thought, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? So I sort of got it all together after about a year, and I self-published it. And I just gave it to friends. It's never really been out in the public. And that must have been in the sort of middle 90s, I think. And then the next time I took up my pen, a great friend of mine who's an artist wanted to do a book. Her husband was president of a very big thing that needed a lot of fundraising. So to cut a long story short, she asked me if I would do the text for that. And we both know a lot of people in Wales, and it just flew off the shelves. We were amazed. And so that's lovely. And then we did another one. We thought, oh, this is easy. So we did another, and that didn't sell as well. And then I never thought of writing anymore. I was busy doing other things, and life was very full. And then my husband died. And suddenly, after about 6 years, I wrote the little book that I think you know a little bit about, all to do with bereavement. I just felt that I could maybe help other people a bit. So again, I still didn't consider myself an author. But anyway, that little book has been quite well received.
Absolutely.
And then I had this. No, you go. Shall I just tell
I wanted to ask you about the title of your book, Abundance. When we look at it, it looks like the words a bun dance. Can you tell us why you felt it was important to spell it out that way?
I'm glad you asked that, because I know it's very odd. And about a long time ago, at least 15 years ago, I was staying with a dear friend in Edinburgh. And she said, are you going to write any more books or another book? And I was surprised at my reply. I said, yes, I think I am, because I know what it's going to be called. And it was very odd. And so she said, what? And I said, well, I can't tell you. Get me a pencil and paper and I'll write it down. And I didn't know I was going to do this, but I wrote A and then bun and then dance. And she looked at it and she started laughing. And have you ever had godly giggles? Because I love godly giggles. I then started laughing. And then I pulled myself together and stopped, and she started laughing. And we went on and on and on. And I knew in that moment I was going to write a book called A Bun Dance. But that was it. And I think that was about 17 or 18 years ago. And I never had time to do it. I had masses of material. I had boxes full of stuff because I often scribble things down, and I had untidy little bits of paper and notes and all sorts of things. And COVID came along, and awful to say I had a wonderful COVID, but I did, because I was in the country. I gardened all morning, shut myself in the afternoon, and I got all these pieces of paper out and worked at it, and that's it. So it was all very strange, but that's how it happened.
No, so let me, and thank you for that segue. Let me ask the question now then. When you were in the process of putting it all together, what was that like?
Chaotic. I had 4 trestle tables, and when the family came to lunch, they either had to sort of, well, negotiate them, because I had all these bits of paper, and I made headings and sort of put them in piles. And then after weeks and months, it all started to take a little bit of shape. And then I was away. So I sort of had the chapter headings, and then I could add to it, and it was fun. So anyway, there we are.
I love it. I love it. Now, when it comes to the proper way to utilize your book or to read the book, many authors put it in a way where you should read it from cover to cover, simply meaning page after page. Some will do it more like a devotional, where you should read perhaps 1 or 2 pages, put it down, take that in, digest it, and before moving on. Did you put the book in a way where you're helping to lead the reader along, or is it more reader's choice, where they're able to read the best way that fits them for the day?
I think a bit of both. I would love them to start at the beginning and finish at the end, but it's very much a book. I've noticed people, because it's only been out for a couple of months, and I've given it to 1 or 2 people, and they pick it up. And I've got a lovely friend who deals in secondhand books, and he was here a couple of days ago. And I was so thrilled, because he knows about books, and he picked it up, and he'd seen it in draft form. But he said, it looks good, and you can open it anywhere, and you can just read where you are. So I think there'll be an awful lot of that. And the illustrations are very sort of light-hearted, but a lovely Christian friend did them. And so much prayer and thought went into each one. And although the content is very deep, because God is deep, and it is, but I'd like to think at the same time it's light-hearted, quite funny in places. I just have this thing about enjoying God, because I always say he has such a sense of humor. And I'd love to think that people just open it anywhere they want and read a bit and go on, and then go back another time. So I don't know. I'll tell you in a year's time. I'll tell you how it's taken them. So we shall see.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, it is time for us to go to break. But before we do, can you remind everyone, please, what is the title of your book? Where can we get a copy? And of course, how do we stay in contact with you?
Well, as you say, it's called Abundance, but I'd like to think really it's sort of God's abundance. That kind of makes more sense. And then the subtitle is How to Enjoy Reading the Bible. And you can get it at through the Book Trail Agency and on Amazon, anywhere that books are sold. And I think, does that cover it? I've got a.
It does.
I've got a website page, which is just penelopebourdillion.com. And
All right.
that tells, well, it's got pretty well all my details.
All right. Thank you. We'll be back right after this.
Hi, do you have something to share? Be a guest. Want to sponsor an episode? Visit drangela.chester.com. Thanks again for watching Daily Spark TV.
There's something I need to tell you. This relationship isn't working. It isn't good for me. I'm breaking up with you.
It's not me, it's you. I became dependent on you. And you were always there for me, even when I was at my worst. But I didn't realize the damage you were doing. You created a toxic environment. Not just for me, but others too. You were suffocating me.
We're just no longer compatible. Also, there's one more thing. I met someone else.
I'm respected in public. I'm making friends. I feel like I can breathe again.
That's how I deserve to be treated.
我们书店结束了。
तुम फिर से कभी नहीं मुझे दुख दोगे।
Ni siquiera te necesito.
Parce que j'ai une autre option.
And it's a healthy relationship.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark TV. Penelope, my next question for you is about how your faith really keeps you moving forward throughout the day, throughout your life. How would you say your faith has played a role in your life?
Well, I must just tell you that my faith until I was 50 years old was very much a head thing. And I went to church because that's what one did. And it really meant very little to me. And then suddenly I woke up and I met Jesus. And I think I was sort of early 50s. And from then on, I just couldn't do without it. It's what makes me want to get up in the morning. I'm very bad at that most important thing in the whole world, and that is to have quality time with God every day at the same time and be focused and pray and read the Bible. And do I do that? I'm always going to do it tomorrow because I'm just busy today. But what I do find, I can just, whatever I'm doing, if I'm washing up or driving the car or working in the garden, I just feel that Jesus is with me all the time. And I sometimes have little chats to him. I mean, often silently, but I think sometimes I talk out loud. And he's just part of my life. And I cannot think now how I ever lived without him. I really do wonder. So I'm very, very blessed. And I find it, the one thing I do find it very easy is to be thankful for everything. I do count my blessings because there's so much to be thankful for, even in the middle of this horrible world that we live in, but there are still so many blessings. So
I could not agree with you more. And I know that with many of the people that I've had the opportunity to speak with, I've said that if nothing else, the pandemic has given us an opportunity to bond with our family, but also to find that quiet time with God. I think that we became such a hustle and bustle society. No matter where we are in the world, according to your own community, there was hustle and bustle, and we were all a part of that flow. And with having to slow down just a bit, it gave us an opportunity to reconnect with friends, with family, and to be thankful. I think more people realized how grateful they were for every day that they have been blessed with. So I could not agree with you more on that. Now, with the type of book that you have written, many authors have to determine what genre they will place their work. Many choose fiction, nonfiction, sci-fi, Christian fiction. How did you go about determining what genre you would place your book in?
Well, I think it would be nonfiction and Christian. But I've found book trails so helpful, and they have guided me, and I think and hope they put it in the right genre, because that obviously is important. But I think there was sort of no choice, really.
Thank you so much for that answer. And that really does help explain. I know that for many authors, that is one of the things that they leave to their publishing company to make sure that it is placed properly, because there's so many options out there and you just don't want to get it wrong. And I'm sure that it is placed properly. Speaking of making those decisions, every author has to determine if they will self-publish or if they will use a publishing house or the professionals to help walk them through the process. How did you come about that determination of which way you would go?
It all just happened. With the second book that I wrote, we did have somebody who was wonderful and did all the costings and everything for us, and that just took off. But this last one, because I kept thinking, why am I writing these books? Nobody's ever going to read them. And with the bereavement book, Hope in the Valley, it was another company from America got onto me. This was probably about 8 years ago, I think. And they said they were going to publish it and spread it around, and they didn't. I won't mention who they are, of course, but they didn't do very well. But the wonderful thing about that was that Book Trail must have seen Hope in the Valley through them. And they rang up and they asked if I'd go on the Kate Delaney show. And it just took off from there. I didn't have any deciding to do. I was just so fortunate that they took it on. And it's been printed in this country, but I haven't got a publisher in the United Kingdom. But it's all going to happen in the States, I hope. And amazingly, it's going further afield. They've offered me to spread it further afield. So I'm hoping that I'm going to be singing a song in strange lands.
Absolutely, absolutely. That would be a beautiful thing. After all, we are cousins, if you will, in that I don't think that many times we see a very large difference in UK and US authors. Perhaps an accent, the way that we pronounce certain words here and there, but by and large, I think that we do things so similar that it's easy to be accepted in one country or the other, because there's just that mutual understanding there. So I'm sure you will be a success, not only here in the US, but in the UK as well. Now, as far as making reading a part of one's day-to-day life. Many authors I know are also avid readers, and their goal is to be the best that they can be. So they read with various authors, just to keep their writing juices flowing, if you will. When it comes to your desire to write, do you find that you need to remove yourself from the hustle and bustle of the day? I know many writers here will say, I go off to the cabin where it's quiet, there's no distraction, there's no internet to distract me, and it's just me and the laptop. Do you find that you need to do a similar thing as well?
Yes. And in fact, sometimes during COVID, my son works nearby, he's a solicitor, and once a week I did go into his office because hardly anybody was working there because of COVID. And that was wonderful because one just was there, no interruptions, and I really got my head down. I'm often inclined to think, oh, I must, when I'm at home, I must just go, or somebody calls in, or I want a cup of coffee, or I want to go and take the dogs out or something. And I'm very bad at just getting focused. But during COVID, I did that because one wasn't so busy doing other things. So it is nice to be shut away. But on the other hand, I do a lot of the sort of thinking about things, perhaps without actually writing them down, as I go along. I think, oh, I must remember that. And then I've probably forgotten it by the time I've got a pencil. So a bit of everything. I don't think I'm really very well organized.
I love that, in that you said you have those moments where it just comes to you. And I find that so many authors are saying the same thing, that they can be driving down the freeway, or they are at the grocery store, and they find that a great idea comes and they're like, oh no, where's my phone? Or I need to write this down. And I tell people, we need to take a note from, there's a children's program here in the US. I won't say all of that, but one of the little suggestions that they give to the young people is to have a handy dandy notebook. So when we say that here in the States, we know that we're talking about that kids program where that's a good idea for adults as well, so that we can jot those things down, because you're right. We have a lot going on. We don't always remember by the time we get home. At least I know I don't either as well. Now, as far as what you want the reader to experience having read your book, many times an author will place those nuggets along the way, those nuggets of wisdom along the way, to help get the reader from page first to page last, to make sure that they get this message. Do you have a message, or is there a hope that you want for each reader to take away having read your book, Abundance?
Yes, there is. I want them to enjoy, first of all the biblical quotations, because I tried to sort of bring that into the book. And I want them to realize that the Bible is so exciting and so relevant and so modern. It's extraordinary. And if it starts to jump out at the page at you, you know you're reading it right. I would like them to have encouragement, hope, love and peace, and all those things are so obvious, but I think just to have joy in their hearts and hope for the future and trust in the Lord.
Oh, that is such a beautiful hope for every reader. And I think everyone who picks up a copy will agree with you as well, that they receive that blessing that you have placed over them with that. I love it. I love it.
Oh, yes,
Now,
blessing. I didn't say blessings. That was the biggest one of all. Thank you for filling that in.
Absolutely. See, I tell you, that was a God moment because that just popped in my head. So
Yep.
Go, God, go. I love it. I love it. Now, one last question for you, and that is, as far as expanding and doing more, we've mentioned earlier that COVID has, for many authors, put them in a position where we've all been on a version of lockdown or quarantine. We've been in the house and we haven't been able to really get out and about the way that we want to. Is your hope that as soon as the world opens back up, that you will continue to do book signings or book expos, get out there to be able to meet and greet with others regarding your book?
Yes, I'd love to think that might be possible.
I agree with you, and I cannot wait until we are all in a position where we are able to meet and greet with one another once again. I love it. I love it. Now, Penelope, before I let you go, can you remind everyone one last time, what is the title of your book? Where can we get a copy, and how do we stay in contact with you?
Well, it's called Abundance, but that's abundance, really. And you can get it through Amazon or where books are sold, and through Book Trail. And I have a website which is very predictable, penelopeBourdillion.com, and that's got all the books on it and all the details. So
thank you again, Penelope, for being a guest here on Daily Spark TV.
Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. And viewers, thank you for spending time with us here as well. I hope that we have enlightened, inspired, and empowered you again today. As always, may the Lord continue to shine his face upon you. May you receive his grace and his mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, remember that you are blessed in the Lord. Have a great day, everyone.